Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Welcome to day one of our integration of the universal laws challenge. So in this series, as I mentioned before, we're going to deep dive into some profound concepts that I think are at the root and the basis of everything that we need to know in order to not go into suffering. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before many times, there is nothing wrong with suffering. The human experience is in order to experience as it is. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But if we understand the laws of the universe, some of the things, the ways that we make our choices, the way that we experience, how we experience the world around us kind of shifts and changes. The way that we exist. And these laws are things that have been known since the very origin of time by all the great scholars and people that have taken the time to deep dive into themselves in order to search for truth. The seekers and those that commune with source are the ones that understand these laws. When you understand these laws, the healing process becomes very easy. Okay, easy in a sense that you understand there is a guideline and there is an architecture. You understand that there is an architecture to the human experience. Okay, and to me, that's one of the most important things, because as a person that needs to understand how the mechanics of things, how things function in order to work at it or to utilize it, I believe that these laws of the universe are something that help us transcend any illusions that we might fall prey to as a result of the nature of the hypnosis in this dimension. Okay. And so many of you are aware of that, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what it means to come into that hypnosis. What does that result in? How do we transcend it? How do we heal that? How do you wake up from it? And then what happens when you wake up? Because not many people talk about what happens when you wake up, because that's actually the very beginning of the journey. And it's something that has a certain order and a certain way of manifestation and creation. Okay. So we're going to discuss that all in this challenge. I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you want to join this challenge, you can subscribe to my channel. Just subscribe below. And if you find something valuable in this challenge, please go ahead and share it. It's such an honor to be able to connect with all of you from around the world. I want to go into the chat and say hello, Pono, Lonika, Yola, Yoli, how are you? Christine, oh my gosh, what a treat. This is late night. I was having a hard time falling asleep. Awesome to see you, Christine. Adam Gannon, hello. Marilena, good morning from Cape Town. How beautiful. Pono says hello. Robocore, peace and gratitude. Good morning from the blue sky, Ireland. That's so beautiful. Doug Dig Up, thank you for being here, my love. So wonderful to have you here. And thank you so much for your super chat, Doug. That was so kind of you and generous in our last live. I want to thank you for that. I didn't get a chance to do that last time. John Shane, so great to see you. I was about to go to sleep. I still caught this one. Yes, wonderful to see you guys. All right, so let's get started. So I went ahead and put together a little presentation just to make things a little easier to move through. And as you know, I love to use visualizations because I'm a very visual person. And also because we want to simplify some of these concepts that can be very difficult. Now, the law that we're going to talk about today is at the root of every other law that you and I are going to discuss in this challenge. We're talking about the law of three. Okay, what is that? That is the building blocks of this dimensional plane. Okay, and we're going to understand what that means. We're going to talk about the physical, mind, body, and soul aspect of the law of three, how it represents, how it expresses itself. And we're also going to take a look at the history of the law of three in terms of how it presented itself through history. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that really briefly. I'm going to go ahead and open up these slides. We're going to talk about the law of three, which is one of the most important aspects of this challenge, because if you understand the law of three, you understand how we come into the manifestation. Okay, The law of three essentially is the key to manifestation. Now, since the origin of time, the law of three has been depicted in many kinds of schools of thought, mystery schools, and through the symbolism and different cultures around the world. And what we want to understand is that the symbolism behind this law of three helps us understand the building blocks of who we are as humans in this time, okay? So very important for us to understand, because in this symbolism, in these ancient artifacts, in artwork, in scriptures, in ancient tablets, we begin to understand a secret language that is the translation of the language of frequency into its form. And that form is symbolism. Symbolism is utilizing to help us understand how energy manifests into the physical, okay? So different schools of thought, and I'm not going to stick to or go deep into the explanation of each specific cultural psychology behind their depiction of the Trinity, because it's in depth, and that's not my focus. My focus is to talk to you about why we see specific symbols in this particular artworks and how they pertain to our understanding of ourselves, okay? So in the Christian, it talks about the Father and the Son and the creation, essentially the light that emerges, the Christic consciousness that emerges from that Trinity. And the symbolism behind these artworks are really profound, actually, because if you really understand them, you begin to understand the journey of your soul, okay? So as you can see here, the Father and the Son are holding on to the crown, which from emerges this bird out of the circle that brings a light, okay? So in the symbolism, the circle represents the one, okay? It represents the source. Circle is the one, I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, but from that one comes down the light. And as you can see, the light is fractalized into rays that are emitting from that source, okay? This is depicted in many, many famous artworks through history. So it's a key element that I want you to pay attention to. In the same way that the one here has his halo, the Christ has his halo, and the Father has his triangle, and still rays are emitting from those cores. Okay, this represents the fractalization of that source, of that one. The crown at the center is one of the most important symbolisms, because we are talking about what is emerging from that oneness, from that one. And the crown is relevant to our crown chakra. Okay, we talk about that a lot. So when we illuminate, when we go through the process of transduction in order to create transmutation of the lower into the higher, what happens is that we create, okay? And that creation process is the third, which is in this symbolism, the law of creation is what you unite in order to create the form. So this crown is essentially the halo that is emerging from that Christic consciousness, the light that emerges of the integration of that divine Trinity. The Father, the Son, the mind, body, and the soul, when they are unified, is creating this Trinity of consciousness, okay? So essentially what we are learning from this Trinity is something to do with how our bodies function in this dimensional plane, which is really important, okay? Now, in many, we're going to talk about number symbolism of that one, of that source. What is that source? Okay, what is that source? So that source being the circle represents the one, okay? And in all of the different kinds of mythology, whether it's Gnosticism, Kabbalah, the Egyptian mythologies, or Zoroastrian, Hinduism, Chinese mythology, occult, there was always that one that was the source, the first. And the first, the one, represents that whole, okay? Now, the two, we're going to go into in depth into the different trinities that are existing in these different concepts. But I want you to understand what these numbers represent, okay? The one being the whole of the source represents the unity, the whole. Okay, it is the all. This is the source. This is what we are innately. This is what we are a fractal of. We are a fractal of the whole. And this is essentially what we are returning to be. We are what we, once we wake up from the hypnosis, we wake up into the consciousness that we are that one. The concept of separation going into the two is just the temporary illusion in the experience of that separation. Okay, so the separation is from the one it chooses to experience. And in order to experience, please keep this very rooted in your mind. In order for us to experience, it is required that we experience this duality, because that contrast is exactly what creates the experience. Okay, so super, super important for you to understand. But if you really truly understand, if you really truly understand this law, you really understand everything about this realm and how you co-create. Okay. It is essentially why we experience suffering. It's why we believe we are separate. It's why the design of the matrix is created in order to create experiences of separation. And it is also why social engineering in this dimensional plane is focused on creating separation and compartmentalization. Okay, so the grounding root of the matrix is in order to experience the separation. Okay, but hold on, hold that thought, because there's more. Okay, so 3 is essentially the life force which unites. Okay, the life force that unites. So let's take a look at again. Okay, the Vesica Pisces, which is the representation of these two dualistic life forces. That what is created by these two dualities is the creation. It is the force that pulls these two. Okay. And so why this is important is because if we understand that the life force which unites is expressed as this three-dimensional plane in its form, the form is created. The way that the divine feminine and masculine unite in order to create the child, we are also creating that child with the expression of our experiences, with our life. And any time that we are experiencing separation, there is something that is born from that experience. Now, what is the fourth? This is very important. So all of these states in which are the laws of this divine Trinity, 4 is the matter. Okay, it is the disorder, it is the disharmony of that, because what occurs as a result of this life force which unites, what begins to separate that and bring it out of order, the result of that is the disorder. We experience this in our lifetimes in cyclical patterns. From the time we are born, in our relationships, in the kind of experiences that we have in our life, we can see these patterns that are expressed. And one of the questions that I want you to ask yourself in this process of integration of this law is, which one of these are we primarily functioning at? Are we in a constant state of disorder? Are we in a constant state of creation of that life force, cultivation of that life force and pulling into unity? Are we experiencing separation, or are we the embodiment of that unity, of that source? So the question is essentially, which one of these are we primary functioning? Now, in all of these different kinds of schools of thought that we are all quite familiar with, there is depicted this divine Trinity. And there are many, many, many symbolisms. We can spend hours and hours talking about the symbolisms of the divine Trinity in every single culture, okay? But essentially, the symbolism behind this is our lives and how they manifest and the process of that manifestation. the integration of the mother and the father, the dualistic energies, create that third, which is the creation. And essentially what we end up doing, I mean, even in the laws of the structure of the physical matter, we have space, matter, and time, past, present, future, solid, liquid, gas, height, width, depth, all as the architecture of this system that we're in. In our physical bodies, and I'm going to explain this in just a moment, we have the Shen, the Qi, and the Jing. We talked about this in my alchemy challenge. But these are the three main energy cultivation centers of the physical body. And we integrate all three of them in order to access the Tao, okay, which is again that unity whole. Okay, we see this in many different systems of our universe. Okay, and in Ayurveda, we talk about the different elements of the physical body, dry, heavy, hot, cold, light, wet, Pitta, Kapha, Vata. Okay, so some of you might be familiar with those schools of thought. But essentially, what I want you to take away from this is that this law, how it manifests into the physical realm, is essentially the integration of the three main aspects of our existence: the body, the soul, and the spirit. Okay, mind, body, and soul. Essentially, how we embody these things, how we master these three different realms in this dimensional plane will dictate the kind of experience that we're having. And it also dictates the next dimensional realm in which we enter into. The integration and the mastery over these three main aspects of this experience as a human is the key to transcending the suffering. Okay, and let's talk about in the physical body, how does this manifest? Because all of these concepts that I'm going to be sharing with you, we're going to link them to the physical body, because what my passion is talking about the integration of these concepts in practical manner that we are applying in our daily basis, okay, in our daily practice. The integration of these dualities within the physical body is how life force is moving through the body. It is also the way that this life force is creating a propulsion of vibrational frequency creation and how it flows through the physical body and all living organisms. The process of oscillation that is created by the toroidal function of life force, the spinning process of life force, is the opposing energies that create that propulsion, that propel it into that spiral motion. And this is essentially the design, the architectural output of these laws. Other organisms in other dimensional layers, we're talking about the three, four dimensional plane, which is where we exist. In other dimensional layers, organisms from other dimensions operate in more complex manners. And I've explained about the Platonic solids, but essentially the way that every dimension is holding on to that geometry, organisms take on that geometry in their physical body. Depending on the cultivation and utilization of their life force, we can change the geometry of our body, which means that we can enter into different dimensional layers. Okay. If in your physical body you don't have an integration of duality, it's going to be very hard for you to create the spin of your vortex in order to move life force through the body. If you have stagnation, blockages in your physical body, anger, emotions that block that life force, it's going to be very hard for you in order to enter into a high vibrational state of co-creation. Why? Because you are not abiding by the laws of three. The law of three represents the dualistic energies that are balanced. They come into harmony. Okay? The harmonious integration of the dualities, which means the ability to allow the flow of these energies through the body, is essentially what allows the spin of these into these high pulsion rates of vibrational frequency. So we essentially need to learn how to move this energy. Now, there in our physical body is encoded the law of three in many different ways. Okay. Within the pineal gland, there are three main channels of life force that are emitting from the chakra that essentially create this union of integration of all three-dimensional layers. We have the ventricles in the brain, and we also have the ventricles in the heart that allow the energy to move through, pumping life force into these areas, as well as irrigating into the cerebral cortex. So all of these systems of the body, and this is just a couple examples, but many parts of our physical body actually are working in order to depict this harmonious exchange and flow of this example of the Trinity in the physical. In our physical bodies, the way that life force moves is in a toroidal motion, which is the expression of the fields that are expressed from our chakras. Okay, the vortices of our chakras that expand into the fields of our bodies are designed to create the form that is a representation and an expression of this law of three. And even when you look at the physical body from every direction, the center point of that harmonious flow is creating a Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces is these two overlapping circles that depict the third. We can see that in the physical body. When the body, if this heart chakra is out of balance because of a heartbreak or blockage in the body, half of that field is going to be missing. It will not create that Vesica Pisces. So what we want to do in our everyday life is to learn how to clear the layers of the body, the field, in order to always bring each one of the chakra bodies into a harmonious state. That is the expression of this law within the physical body. If you create this flow of life force that creates harmonious balance, awareness, integrated connection with the physical body, you allow that in order to create life. Now, let's go to the next level, which we just talked about. But if we continue to create harmonious, clear neutrality within each one of those fields of the body, what's next is the integration of the energy collection centers of the body. And as I mentioned, these three main centers of energy, okay, are what create the harmonious flow of life force through the entire organism, the integration of all 7 bodies, and then even beyond that into the 13-dimensional layers. So the Dantian, the first, the second, and the third Dantian, the lower, the middle, and the upper Dantian, the integration of those energy centers, we are integrating matter, okay, so the physical, the emotional, and the interdimensional. That is what this represents. And so by continuously clearing the field, bringing the shape of your body into that harmonious Vesica Pisces of life flow, we have the ability of integrating these 3 centers of the body. And what happens is that we open the 0 point from which source, that Tao, that source, essentially we become one. So in the physical realm, here's the example of how the 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers represent in our physical body. Most of us, when we are asleep, when we are in dormant hypnosis, we're experiencing the 4th, which is the disharmony. So essentially, all of these centers are in chaos. We don't even know what they're doing. One is enlarged, one is open, one is shrunk, one is stagnant. There's no order in the manifestation of this physical vessel. Okay, so we come into conscious awareness, so we start practicing the 3. And the 3 is essentially the creation. So we begin to reconnect with the physical body. We learn how to manifest into the physical. And that occurs by the integration of the lower Dantian. Why? Because the lower dantian manages the root, the sacral, and the solar, which are the three main dimensional planes of this law of three, the law of three. Again, the root, the sacral, and the solar represents whether you feel safe in the body, how you in exchange with those outside of you, and how you are hosting emotional bodies and feel reconnecting with your physical. Again, mind, body, and soul, physical matter. So the self, the physical, the other, and then the creation. Again, those three centers are represented in the roots. So these main three chakras, when we have mastery over those three-dimensional planes, that's when we integrate that lower root chakra. And the integration of those, the mastery over the emotional, the physical, and the exchange is essentially how we begin to manifest miracles, synchronicities in the physical, how we begin to, we can even change the outcomes of certain events as we begin to integrate. Okay, so it is the mastery over the matter. Now, the higher integration of that is when we activate the heart chakra. Okay, so essentially the heart chakra, now we went micro, looking at one chakra. Now we're going to go macro, looking at the three. Okay, so the heart, the throat, and the third eye represents that coherence, the interconnectedness to the whole, the balance and the harmony between yin and yang, which is the dualities, and the intuitive, the harmony with the interdimensional, the non-physical. So those three centers of energies, once we integrate these three, now we unite them with the earth, with the physical. And this is how the physical body begins to embody an open channel of the 0 point. Okay, so now, as I mentioned, the fourth is the disorder, the three is the integration, that unity, and finally the one is the whole, all, that unity consciousness. So we are expressing the 1, 2, 3, and 4 main laws of this structure, architecture of this universe in our physical bodies. And we have to learn how to do that by maintaining complete reconnection with the physical body. We have to learn how to maintain that awareness in order to begin to transcend the limitations. Super, super important. Okay. So now let's talk about the psychological aspect of the integration. Okay, this is one of the most important and the hardest for the human to transcend. How do we transcend the psychological aspect of the law of three? The psychological aspect of the law of three is the integration of the feminine and masculine. Because in the same way that we have those three main aspects within the body, the energy centers, the dantians, we have in our collective subconscious, so let's come over here so you can understand, the three main realms of informations that we are integrating, mind, body, and soul. Okay, I don't really talk about spirit because the way I look at it is mind, body, and soul. Okay, so here it is. So the mind being the brain, the conscious mind, the one that is acting in the physical and in this matrix, the soul as the third, which is the body and the subconscious, and the soul being the superconscious. Okay, so we are essentially learning how to integrate. The integration of these three realms creates the form. Again, let's talk about the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field functions by the law of three, by creation. The vibrational frequency, which is the wave patterns that are created by the thought forms created by the mind, which are informed by the subconscious, okay, in the higher level, are directed by the higher order of the superconscious. So we are experiencing all three of these realms every moment of our day. And we don't know that we're doing that. But as I mentioned in the video where I discussed, how to know your purpose, essentially each one of these realms participate in the co-creation of what we are creating. So it's an incredibly powerful thing, an incredibly important aspect of ourselves. If we neglect our subconscious mind, we don't get anywhere. This is why DNA reprogramming, hypnotherapy, and all psychotherapies that focus on accessing the root of our belief systems are at the crux of the transformation and transmutation process of human beings. Because the nature of this dimensional plane in which we come in to experience separation through the filters of duality, compartmentalization, separation, have to be deprogrammed for the human vessel in order for it to begin to see itself as and recognize the superconscious mind. And these are relevant to creator states that we always discuss, the states of creation that essentially help the human come into its highest form of manifestation. Let's look at that in the spiritual aspect of this, which is essentially it's psycho-spiritual, because the only way that we access a God creator state, again, is by entering into that unity. Okay, so again, the law of three: separation, the physical, and the unity. And we're going to talk about cause and effect in this challenge in depth, but essentially each one of these realms, how we see the world, how we manifest, how we express ourselves, is a product of how we are utilizing our life force for co-creation. And if we don't understand the law of three, we're not going to understand why we are stuck in the patterns that we are stuck in. So it is absolutely essential that we understand that. So the integration, how do you find the harmony between the feminine and masculine? Again, it has to do psychologically with the ways that we are holding and expressing these dualistic energies in our mind and our body. The way we find the balance, the integration point, is to integrate both feminine and masculine energies within us. And the way that we hold and express them depends very much on how we've been programmed, the experiences that we have chosen to experience in this realm. So the balance is the integration of the two. The healthy feminine and the healthy masculine are the two main aspects of high functioning humanity. Embodiment of unconditional love, confidence, inner strength, focus, support, discipline, courage, sensitivity, emotional balance, creativity, allowing. Okay, so these are just for your understanding that in order to see these energies manifest into the psychological, physical in a way that is productive, it is important for us to understand how we are out of balance. How are we in the manifestation of the disharmony? How we are expressing that disharmony. Okay, so let's talk a little bit deeper now into the laws of creation, because in the same way that psychologically we are learning to find the 0 point, which is the state of neutrality, the state of non-judgment. At the 0 point, at this center point of these two dualities, is where we enter into that wisdom. The wisdom is the practical application of this knowledge of these two experiential aspects of ourselves, from which emerges unconditional love, which is the stepping stone into that unity consciousness. So the human begins to operate at its optimum state, at its optimum harmonious state. It is healthy. It is exchanging harmoniously with the universe, and it is in a state of manifestation and creation, because all of this law of three is helping us understand what part of the universe we are experiencing. In fact, the part of the universe that we are in right now is essentially the creation. It is the womb. It is actually the feminine part of this multiverse. The feminine, so we live in spheres within spheres of consciousness, And within these organisms, the way that this entire multiverse is designed is like a DNA strand. It is a spiral construct of infinite potential that is ranged by vibrational frequency. Where we exist, our dimension is in the dimension of the feminine aspect. Okay, we are experiencing the feminine right now. We are passing through the spiral of the feminine aspect, which is creation, which is why intuition is a major theme in our lifetimes, and it will be a major theme until we no longer exist, transcending into the next octave of that vibrational expression. So in this feminine part of this spiral, I've mentioned how the universe is moving in a spiral motion, but as we are spinning through this spiral, this feminine aspect from which we are experiencing right now, they talk about, the age of Aquarius. They talk about this state of high enlightenment of consciousness, high consciousness for all humanity. Well, that's because we are in this feminine. And what is the feminine? Let's break that down. Essentially, the feminine is the expression of this Vesica Pisces, the law of three. Okay, it is the creation, the yoni, right? So the womb from which life emerges. Okay, and we see that depicted in many, many cultures around the world. The representation of the egg, the representation of the snake and the egg, the representation of Easter, of the resurrection, of the co-creation, of Inanna, of the rabbit symbolism. Okay, the womb, the egg that is created is the third. It's the creation that comes into the form. It is the form. Okay, and this essentially, when you look at it at the bigger picture, this beautiful shape here that creates the Vesica Pisces is actually the participation of an even greater order, a greater self-organized order that creates the flower of life. Let's take a look at that in this sacred geometrical expression. Essentially, that Vesica Pisces turns into this communion with the universe. Okay, so when we begin to unite these in this dimensional plane, the geometry of this expression, of this co-creation, of this infinite potential for creation that we're here to exist, is what creates this unity, this whole. Okay, now even deeper, our DNA is designed with this geometry embedded in its encoding. Okay, so our entire DNA is depicting this sacred geometry of creation. And anytime that we go into complete disorder and disharmony, this geometry, this balance, this harmonious structure is destroyed. The same way that Dr. Emoto talked about the vibrational frequency of anger, death, disharmonious octaves of music that create disorder, we are creating disorder in the physical body. But when the body is coming into harmonious hertz of frequency that create order, that are in alignment with order. And what's order? It's nature. Okay, nature. Why? Because nature is in resonance with the law of three. It is the innate expression. Everything that is in nature is expressing at that law of three. It is in its unquestioned, untainted expression of that law. And so the human, which is the one that's experiencing the disharmony temporarily through the separation, we go into the hypnosis of the separation to experience disharmony, to experience contrast. We come into disorder, and this is where suffering emerges. So in order to change that, the simple way to begin to embody harmony, to come into the highest optimum state of humanity, is to follow the law of three, which is the innate state of co-creation as connected with nature. So when we go into nature, when we embody this natural connection to the universe, to all, to the whole, the body begins to operate at its optimum state. This is the expression of the law of three in the physical. in this entire universe, the way that this universe is spiraling to create this center point of 0 point of creation. It is depicted in the way that the universe is expressed. It's depicted in your DNA. It's depicted in the flow of energy through your body. There are certain undisputable laws in this universe that help us understand how our organism function. And the law of three is one of the most powerful laws that when we understand that, we kind of come into a state of surrender, of active surrender, conscious surrender. We feel absolutely safe in that surrender, in which we are in a state of creation. Now, in our lives, and I've talked about this in the video of talking about, what is our purpose? How do we know our purpose? But we are experiencing and cycling through different phases of destruction and creation as well. And when you look at these things from the higher order, what you begin to understand is that everything is operating in its most harmonious state, because this universe has the ability to self-organize back into harmony. Okay, the universe creates itself out of a primary chaos of material energy, organized into the cycles of yin and yang, and formed into the objects and lives. So we are experiencing the cycles of order and chaos in many, many expressions. The yin, the yang, the feminine, the masculine, the order, the chaos, the masculinity, the femininity, the day, the night, the known, the unknown. Okay, so this aspect of the known and the unknown is the one that we talk about the most here in epigenetic psychology, because we see that when the body goes into resistance of the unknown, it goes into disharmony, disorder, and illness. Okay, so the idea is to embody the integration of the duality in order to bring the body into harmony. In the biophysical, biochemical, bioelectrical aspect of this, the most powerful way to store and to remember, to activate our memory, our interdimensional memory, which is what we want to remember, is by number one, waking up from the hypnosis, and then going through the process of integration by healing all the aspects of ourselves that feel unsafe in the unknown. And the healing of those aspects of ourselves that feel unsafe in the unknown, begin to remember what they are. They unblock the blocked memories of the trauma that exists interdimensionally in the physical body. And essentially what ends up happening is that the body opens up its light body. And as above, so below, but the flows of life force that are moving through the universe in this spiral motion are also moving within the physical body. I've shared this with you, this picture of the universe and the runways of energy that created. Each one of these little dots that you see in this picture are depicting the explosion of stars, okay? But essentially what this beautiful order, self-organizing order that you see here in this picture of the universe, the name of it is Lainakea, which means immense heaven, open skies, or wide horizons. So these runways, they drive the processes of stars, collisions through gravitational pull. And the same design of this beautiful runway of energy is also seen in our heart, and it's also seen in nervous system runways of our lungs and nervous system. Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this is because open skies, wide horizons is speaking of creation. Okay, in this universe, we are going to create. We are going to manifest into the highest form. That's what we are here to do. And essentially, the way that we exist in this dimensional plane is for this co-creation process. So the more we align with nature, the more we begin to access higher forms of consciousness through our body, through the harmonious integration, the more we come into our highest optimum functioning state. Okay, so this is a quick overview. And what I'd love to do now is I want to take you into a meditation where we're going to begin to uh, integrate this law of three into the physical. Okay. All right, my loves, welcome. Welcome everybody that's joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a late night live, but I'm so happy to be here with you all around the world, especially my time zones that are now in their morning time. It's so great to see you guys. Welcome, Rob Core, GNA Wilge, no Wilge, I love that name. Toroidal existence, that's right. Monique, I saw the slide of beautiful Laniakea, great attractor. I would have loved your presentation on what influence this place has on our multidimensional bodies. I call it a cosmic PowerPoint. Yeah, thank you. So the influence that this place has in our multidimensional bodies is actually from the inside out because it's a fractal design. And we're going to talk about the fractal architecture of the universe as well as our physical bodies in this challenge. We're going to go deeper into that. That's true spiral duality. That's right, Rob Core. Monique, I love your presentations. Thank you for that. Rob Core could have these lectures in the background on heavy rotation and the subconscious Akash picks it all up. Excellent. All right, loves, let's go in. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat in capital letters. That way I can answer these questions, okay? I'm going to walk you through a meditation so that we can begin to integrate this law of three in our physical body. And we're going to do that by becoming aware of our dualistic aspects and then finding the 0 point at the center of those, okay? So let's go ahead and get started as we begin to inhale deeply. Breathing. Inhale and exhale. As you allow yourself to come into a state of complete relaxation, complete calm. Go ahead and allow yourself to come into absolute stillness. Breathing. And in this state of stillness, I want you to allow yourself to begin to sense the connection to the earth. Go ahead and allow yourself to breathe deeply into the base of your spine. With every breath you take, coming into a deeper stillness. Beginning to release any tension from your nervous system. Breathing. Allowing the body to come into a state of complete neutrality, complete relaxation. Let's go ahead and focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine. We're going to begin to integrate the first aspect of this law of three, which is the root, the sacral, and the solar. So go ahead and visualize connecting to your root chakra. Allow yourself to shrink it down to the size of a dime. As we begin to redirect the energy of the body into higher octave frequency. Go ahead and go up into the sacral. Go ahead and shrink that field down to the size of a dime, bringing the body out of a state of chaos, out of a state of disharmony into a neutral state. Go up into the solar plexus. You're going to do the same. Go ahead and visualize shrinking that chakra down to the size of a dime, disconnecting any imbalances of the solar plexus. Breathing. Go up into the heart. I want you to expand that heart chakra, opening the center of coherence. Go up into the throat, expanding the throat chakra. Go up into the third eye. Go ahead and expand that chakra as wide as possible. Breathing. Go up into your crown. Go ahead and allow yourself to see the first, second, and third chakra integrating into a source of energy. And I want you to tune in to your first, second, and third layer of your body, and I want you to clear it out from all the debris. Clear it out. As you see that integration of the three centers, you'll begin to notice that they are flowing a lot faster as you clear out. The more you clear out, the more that they flow. Breathing. Go ahead and clear out from the three-dimensional layers of the body. Breathe. Go up into your heart, your throat, and your third eye. You're going to integrate those three. Go ahead and clear the heart, the throat, and the third eye from any debris, any blockages, any heaviness that's stagnant in these spaces. As you begin to heal the layers of your body. Now we're going to go up into the highest, into the eighth, the seventh, the eighth, and the ninth dimensional plane. This is the higher state of co-creation. Go ahead and integrate those three. I want you to clear those three upper bodies. So now that you're here, I want you to begin to see the process of the integration of the lower, middle, and the upper dantian, mind, body, and soul. And the question that I want you to ask yourself at this time, what is it that hinders you from integrating these three aspects of yourself? Mind, body, and soul. Okay, intentions, actions, thoughts. and the integration of our spiritual self into the physical and material world. What are the things that block us from integrating into our higher self, embodying the higher self, embodying this wisdom that we have available to us? Go ahead and visualize coming into that state. As you begin to observe silently, what are some of the things that block us from embodying this integration? Are they certain belief systems? Are they fears? Are they doubts? Is there anger? Is there resentment? What's happening? Take a look at that. We essentially want to be very aware of any parts of us that is feeling heavy emotions that creates doubts and blocking us from embodying this state. So go ahead and allow yourself to clear out programs that do not allow that integration. Breathing. Allow yourself to observe in a state of non-judgment. Breathing. Notice what comes up as you begin to observe some of this information. Go ahead and see all of those parts of you that you are uncovering simply through this question. Go ahead and see those parts of you. Those parts of you that are in resistance and anger and fear. Whatever is causing the resistance, see those parts of you in front of you. And the question is, are they in a state of suffering? Okay, go ahead and take a look at that. If they are in a state of suffering, what do they need in order to no longer be in this state of suffering? What do they need from themselves? Take a look at that. What would be the opposite of this contracted state? And if when you come to that question, you have a really hard time imagining what that is or understanding what that is, it's because we've never experienced it before. So I want you to be very patient with yourself and just kind of tuning in to see if you can sense intuitively for what that might be. Okay, take a moment to connect. Allow that integration. What are the things that hinder you from embodying this integration of the mind, body, and soul? And what do you need from yourself in order to integrate it? And as you get your answers, I want you to take that answer and go even deeper? What do you need in order to implement that answer into your life? Okay, so go ahead and take a look at that now. What do you need in order to implement that answer into your life? Breathing. Beginning to understand the parts of you that resist coming into your highest expression, your most conscious state, because the integration of these three aspects of yourself is the embodiment of this source self. It is the embodiment of the higher self into the physical, and requires a lot of courage, courage to see truth, courage to surrender, courage to trust. Okay. So some of those things might be frightening for many of you because of the compartmentalization that we've experienced all our lives. So go ahead and notice and take a look at what you need to support yourself on this journey in order to finally be able to integrate this higher aspect into the physical, and to become the creator's state, the creation vessel, instead of a counter-creative vessel, the embodiment of the integration of that Trinity, mind, body, and soul. Take a look at that. Remember that the healing of yourself is the healing of the whole, of the collective. So everything that we are and everything that we co-create is contributing to the whole. So the question is, are you willing to hold space, source in your body in order to heal the collective? Okay. And our directive is not about the end product of the collective, but it's about understanding the participation that we play, because we are an interconnected system of consciousness. When one goes dormant, we all go dormant. When one wakes up, we all wake up. So as you can see, and I'll talk about that law later on in this challenge, but essentially we are an interconnected network that is experiencing collectively and simultaneously. Okay, so just allow yourself to tune into that. Breathing deeply. And as you do this process, what you're going to find is that you are meeting yourself. The end of this exercise is to reconnect with yourself, to meet with yourself, back into that unity. So what you just experienced in this meditation is the returning to that one. You were separation, and now you experience the unification of all those parts. In this healing process, that's exactly what we're doing. We are reunifying or unifying all of the fractalizations of ourselves into the whole, because we are the whole. We just forget that we are the whole. We become fractalized and fragmented. Very good. So go ahead and allow yourself to see this integration of the whole, the embodiment of that source in your physical body. Allow yourself to anchor down to the center of the earth and focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine. Go ahead and open that root chakra back into a balanced state. Open that sacral chakra into a balanced state. Open that solar plexus back into a balanced state. Open that heart chakra into a balanced state. The throat, the third eye, and going up into the crown. Okay, allow yourself to see source coming through you now more clearly, more wide, more connected to the physical body, and anchor that source into the body down to the center of the earth. Allowing yourself to integrate this in the physical body. Breathing deeply with every breath you take. As you embody this wholeness, this one, I want you to come back into the room and notice how it feels to be in this state of integration now. Okay, you learned a lot about yourself and you supported that back into a unity. So this is the invitation for this challenge, that we continue on a daily basis to reunify ourselves until finally we see ourselves as that one. Okay, that is the process and the experience that we are all here to have in this experience of temporary experience of separation. All right. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, sending you so much love, and I will see you tomorrow. All my love. See you soon.